physician, and pilgrim, heal thyself first. Then you shall be called servant, student, and teacher of healing. But before you go out to attempt to help others, do these miracles of healing in your own hometown, where you are living, for there are many that cry out in need of your services right now. The miracle of healing your body all begins when you restore your blood to its normal pH range of 7.3 to 7.45. Once this is accomplished, and only then the healing process will begin, when your blood pH is in the narrow range as prescribed in our study. For when your body's mineral balances are off, your health is off. When your body's pH and basic metabolic processes are off, it sets up the internal environment that becomes the new playground for the opportunistic bugs, bacteria, viruses, and fungi to grow, change into deadly and harmful microbes that mutate and become pathogenic, causing enzymes that are constructive to become destructive. Oxygen delivery to the cells suffer and begin to die off. Then organs of the body become compromised, like your brain or even your heart. Mineral assimilation gets thrown off. Did you know the important fact? Your body needs minerals in order to absorb vitamins. Minerals cannot be made in the body and must be obtained in our diet. Minerals serve three important roles. They provide structure in forming bones and teeth. They help maintain normal heart rhythm, muscle contractility, neural conductivity, and acid-base balance. They help regulate cellular metabolism by becoming part of enzymes and hormones that modulate cellular activity. Now, what is pH? pH is the abbreviated form of potential of hydrogen or the power of hydrogen. It is a measure of the acidity or basicity, alkalinity of a material when that thing is dissolved in water. It is equal to the negative logarithm of the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. A pH value of 7 represents neutrality. Values less than 7 are acidic, and values greater than 7 are basic or alkaline. The pH can be actually determined in a very accurate manner, only by using a pH meter. Coming soon will be video 2 should you how to test your food pH, and how to test the pH's your body. So watch for it. The CIT is a logarithmic measure of hydrogen ions. It was defined initially by a Danish biochemist by the name of Søren Peter Lauritz Sørensen in the year 1909. For hydrogen is the very first element on the periodic table. It is also the smallest. It has only one proton in its nucleus, and only one positive charge electron, plus one in its orbital. This is the electronic structure of the ion. Hydrogen is also capable to form other elements or compounds. Ions of opposite electronic structure charge will attract to each other. As the pH of the blood goes more acid, fatty acids which are normally electromagnetically charged on the negative side switch to positive, and automatically are attracted to, and begin to stick to the walls of arteries which are electromagnetically charged on the negative side. And the science states, opposites attract. It should start from make sense that a society which overemphasizes food that could push blood to be more acid will have a high rate of heart disease and even cancer. And so it goes. For pH control impacts every biochemical process in your body. That is why it is so important to remain in the proper narrow pH range at all times. Now let us discuss the biochemical processes behind pH levels in your body. Let me talk very simplistically about the biochemical processes which lay the groundwork for the rotting processes in your body. This is the process of pH change and alteration down at the blood and tissue level. In order to do this in a simple fashion, let's look at the process of food metabolism, and how your body handles metabolic byproducts from food intake. One of the byproducts of food metabolism is CO2, carbon dioxide. As you know, lung respiration is one way in which your body eliminates carbon dioxide. It happens every time you exhale. However, in order to eliminate all of the carbon dioxide that is generated from normal metabolism, the lungs would need a respiration rate far above normal breathing. Holding this constantly accelerated rate would indeed be very difficult. Therefore, other mechanisms comes into play for handling the excess. 1. The CO2 combines with ammonia, produced from the oxidation of glutamine, and converts to urea in the liver, and is excreted by the kidneys. 2. The carbon dioxide combines with water through a process utilizing the enzyme carbonic anhydrous, and the coenzyme mineral zinc. Through this process, carbonic acid is formed, which breaks down into hydrogen and bicarbonate atoms molecules. Notice we just mentioned hydrogen. What does pH stand for? Potential hydrogen. When we talk about hydrogen, we are talking about potential acids. When we talk of bicarbs, we are talking bases, alkaline substances. Acids are a normal byproduct of metabolism. The body has the mechanisms in place to eliminate these acids. But, through poor dietary habits, shallow breathing, lack of exercise, toxicity exposures, etc., which can lead to liver stress and kidney malfunction, the acids in the body do not always get eliminated as they should. In this case, what's a body to do? Well, if it can't eliminate them, then it has to store them. And store them it does. When the body has an excess of acid it can't get rid of, the acid gets stored for later removal. Where? In the interstitial spaces, also called the extracellular matrix, the spaces around the cells, the mesenchyme. When the body stores a hydrogen molecule atom proton, the acid, in the extracellular matrix, it believes that one day the acid is going to be removed. Therefore, in order to be in balance, it knows that for every molecule of acid that gets stored in the tissues, an equal molecule of bicarb or base needs to be put into the blood, because one day it will be needed to escort the acid out of the body. This is the body's amazing compensatory mechanism at work. What we see here is the pH interplay between the blood and the tissues. If the body has an acid overload, it stores the acid in the tissues. The tissue pH decreases, and the blood compensates and becomes alkaline. The blood pH increases. Is this important? You bet it is. We are starting to scratch the surface for the rotting mechanism in our body. But before we get there, let's push on and see what happens when the acids don't get an opportunity to leave, and more acid accumulates. As more acid accumulates in our body, it gets stored and pushed further, and ultimately it gets pushed into the cell. When it gets pushed into the cell, the first thing it does is displace potassium, and then magnesium, and then sodium. Well, those are three critical minerals in our body. The potassium and magnesium will leave the body, but as a preservation mechanism the sodium will be retained. Remember, the body knows it must place an alkaline molecule in the blood to escort out this increasing acid that is being stored in the tissues and cells. What it will often do when mineral reserves are low, which is often the case when eating a modern American diet, is draw calcium, the most alkaline mineral known, from the bones, and put it into the blood. This leads to something called free calcium excess. This is something you don't want, and it is what's behind osteoporosis, arthritic pain, etc. It is brought about by the body compensating for an ever-increasing tissue acidosis somewhere in the body. Note that I'm being incredibly simplistic here with this whole story. Regarding calcium, understand that it does not just leave the bone to balance acid, as calcium is not a buffer, but when potassium leaves it will bind with phosphorus from the bone, and in the process of phosphorus exiting the bone out goes the calcium. In these situations what the body often needs is more potassium bicarbonate, magnesium, perhaps organic sodium, and possibly zinc, which lends help to the whole proper acid breakdown process which we started to talk about. Calcium needs to be given judiciously, as does potassium, as potassium can exacerbate things like cancer, which can thrive in an acid environment of the type we're talking about here. A word about cancer. The doctors say, because cancer is a disease. However, these practitioners of symptomatic medicine are mistaking the disease for the symptom. It is more accurate to say that the cancer is not the disease itself, but is rather the symptom. Cancer cells do not evolve, they devolve. They do not perform the task specified in the blueprints of DNA, but they rebel and go it alone. Cancer cells don't require a lot of oxygen to live. In fact, it is this low oxygen level that allows them to thrive. Or to put it in a way that even a physician can understand, cancer cells become cancerous, not because they are the disease, but because they are normal cells reacting to the causative factors of disease. That is, cancer cells become cancer cells because they are normal cells that cannot live in any other way. They are following the first commandment of life. Thou must live. And in order for them to live, they must give up their specific functions in the body and devolve to a lower level of life that is not so demanding of them. They become cancer cells in order to survive, not because they want to be cancer cells. All due to a high acid base in the blood from the high acid foods you eat. The body tries to get rid of some of the acid, but the overload is stored between the cells. The oxygen level is cut off because of the low pH factor in the blood, and the cancer survives. Today many claim cancer is easily cured with nothing more complicated than taking baking soda, a bicarbonate, that neutralizes the acid that is stored, very like your body, as we covered earlier here. A word about calcium. You never get calcium into the body elementally, it is always attached to something else. It is the something else which can cause a shift in the underlying pH of urine and saliva, and if shifted the wrong way can lead to imbalance. The calciums that are neutral would be calcium gluconate and orotate, a good bone builder. These are calciums for use by anybody at any time. Calcium lactate, on the other hand, can push a person to acid, but it is okay to use if a person has a high average alkaline urine and saliva pH, 7.0 or above, and you are wanting to push it down. Calcium citrate, hydroxide, and carbonate, coral calcium, can push a person to alkaline. But it is okay to use if a person has low average acid urine and saliva pH, 5.8 or below, and you are working to push it up. In all cases you should return to a neutral calcium when the proper pH zone is reached. continued use of the wrong calcium in the wrong pH can lead to unbalanced conditions and potential problems. You can get your average pH as follows: saliva pH times 2, and then add your urine pH. That total is then divided by 3. That number is the average pH. Let's push a little further. We have discussed 4 critical minerals: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Well, wouldn't you know, these 4 minerals are the controlling minerals for our body's sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Simply put, the sympathetic nervous system, SNS, controls a fight-or-flight response mechanism. The parasympathetic system, PSNS, controls our rest and digest response mechanism. It works like this. Calcium is a stimulatory mineral for the sympathetic nervous system. Magnesium is an inhibitory mineral for the sympathetic nervous system. Potassium is a stimulatory mineral for the parasympathetic nervous system. Sodium is an inhibitory mineral for the parasympathetic nervous system. When you run an acidic condition in the body, excessive free calcium stimulates the SNS. Magnesium isn't around to offer a balance. Potassium is depleted, so the PSNS is not getting stimulated to offset the SNS, and it is actually being further inhibited by sodium, which the body is hanging on to because of the loss of potassium and magnesium. What does this give you? A person that is acidic, possibly prone to ranting and raving, hyperactive, quick to anger, moving too fast, burning out. Just what you'd expect from somebody running too acidic. And what does it give you when pushed to the extreme? You get a person that may appear as extreme PSNS dominant, lazy, lethargic, fatigued. But what you might have is a person pushed beyond SNS dominance to outright exhaustion. According to some healthcare practitioners, it is rare to see a true PSNS dominant individual, but we find that this is not true. Clinically, people can definitely be stuck in a parasympathetic zone. More on this in a bit. What we've just covered is a bit of the biochemistry that gets us to where we're going, and as you can see, it's one of the many fascinating interrelated pieces to this puzzle we call health. Now let's go further to build the picture. Acid, base, tissue, blood. Biochemistry. As acids accumulate in our body, they get stored and pushed into the tissues. The area they get pushed to, on a local level, is going to be in large measure where in your body, or with what organ you experience problems. When the body stores a molecule of excess acid, it will compensate by placing an extra alkaline atom molecule in the blood. The blood will therefore become increasingly alkaline. Now something interesting happens with the uptake of oxygen when the blood is overly alkaline. With rising alkalinity, blood can increase its oxygen uptake. Therefore the blood cells can hold more oxygen. Pretty good, don't you think? Well, if you think so, you're wrong. The reason is a little bit of biochemical reality known as the Bohr effect. The Bohr effect states that with rising blood alkalinity, the red blood cells can saturate themselves with ever more oxygen. The problem is, they can't let go of it. If the blood cells can't let go of oxygen, then the oxygen isn't getting down to the other cells of the body. And do you recall what Otto Warburg discovered about cancer? It grows in an oxygen-deficient environment. Now let's go further. We have alkaline blood due to the fact we have increasingly acidic tissue and or cells occurring somewhere in our body. We have an alkaline blood which can't let go of its oxygen to aerate an increasingly acidic environment. So get this, here we have an acidic environment with no oxygen. How can anything survive in this environment? Through anaerobic fermentation. What ferments anaerobically, without oxygen? Yeast, mold and fungus. If that's the case, then this should bring up a most logical question. Since cancer thrives in an anaerobic environment, what is cancer? If you answer fermenting mold and fungus, you get a gold star. That is exactly what cancer is. Want proof? In 1903, Enderlein and Schmidt in Munich cultured the fungus Mucorrhizomyces friesen from tumor cells. Other biologists, some of those mentioned in our earlier video, have done the same. With access to a biology lab, you or any other scientist not beholden to political agendas can duplicate this experiment at any time. Why is this important? Because it is part of the story behind aging, disease, and the rotting process which confirms what pleomorphic scientists have known all along about microbes, which is, all microbes will change dependent upon their environment, when the pH factor, that is out of perfect normal range of 7.3 to 7.45, and so be it. Important points to remember today are: 1. The American medical establishment rarely looks at live blood. 2. When your body's blood pH changes away from the ideal narrow range, 7.3 to 7.45, it becomes an environment for opportunistic microorganisms to grow and flourish. Cancer is a fungus. It is the species of plant-based fungus that Professor Gunther Enderlein suggested that has infected man and all mammalian species millennia ago. The fungus is among us, and already in your blood. 3. If the body has an acid overload, it stores the acid in the tissues. The tissue pH decreases. 4. Life is in your blood. All illness is but one constitutional disease. Poisoning due to a fungal toxin. Toxicity brought about by mycotic infection, from the Greek meaning yeast and fungus infection, the great decomposers of life, which are any organism in a community, such as a bacterium or fungus, that breaks down dead tissue. 5. Without minerals you cannot absorb vitamins from your foods. Your body needs minerals in order to absorb vitamins. Vitamin and mineral interactions. Many vitamins and minerals interact, working alongside each other in groups. A good balance of vitamin D, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, zinc, chloride, manganese, copper and sulfur is required for healthy bones. Many of them can enhance or impair another vitamin or mineral's absorption and functioning. An excessive amount of iron can cause a deficiency in zinc. Therefore all have to be in balance as the body needs and requires naturally, by eating the right God-given vegetables, herbs, seeds and fruits. A good source of all body minerals can be found in sea plants. These sea greens contain all the different nutrients including vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, etc., in the correct proportions that correspond directly to the nutritional makeup of the human blood. Sea greens can also balance the partial nutritional profile of other foods, and maintains the body's micronutrient levels on which digestion and good health depend. To learn more about what to eat, see our video titled, "The Natural Food System is the Key to Good Health, Recovery and Longevity," which outlines what you should eat to reverse your disease. The pH miracle will take place only when you restore your blood to a normal pH range of 7.3 to 7.45. Now you can reclaim your health by eating God's given vegetables and fruits which have the proper pH range. But most important, stay away from all hybrid foods that are not created by our Almighty God. This health message is from bloodpHcontrol.com, and thank you for watching our video today.